Dropping weight and increasing rideability is what motocross is all about for 2016. Air forks are the hottest topic among riders, and while it doesn't create quite the debate as a two-stroke versus a four-stroke, opinions run hot on the subject of air versus spring. MotoUSA's 2016 450 Shootout features 3 machines with air forks and 4 with spring forks. You aren't bad at math. We decided to toss the KTM 350 SXF into the ring to battle it out amongst giants. The 3 air fork equipped bikes for 2016 include the all-new Kawasaki KX450F, the unchanged RMZ 450, and the revised Honda CRF450R. The bikes still supported by spring forks are the revised Yamaha YZ450F and the KTM 450 SXF and the Husqvarna FC 450, which are both completely new machines for 2016. To fully highlight the strengths and weaknesses of the bikes in the shootout, testing took place at multiple tracks around Southern California, and all machines were tested as they come in stock form. We also utilized test riders ranging in both age and skill level from novice to pro. Test riders scored each bike based on a number of performance categories like engine power, cornering, stability, suspension, handling, and more. Points were assessed on the categories, giving us a final ranking. All bikes were weighed with a full tank of gas, and dyno testing was done in-house. In the end, there can only be one winner, so let's get roosting and see who got it right for 2016. As the least changed machine in the shootout, the Suzuki RMZ 450 still warms the hearts of riders for its amazing ability to corner confidently in any situation. Simply thinking of initiating a turn and the RMZ 450 is carving away. Add the ability to corner with an engine that delivers excellent to low-mid power, and you have a bike that can turn quick lap times piloted by a rider who knows when to shift. The RMZ 450 has a great engine, it just doesn't have the peak numbers of the other 450s. The 2016 RMZ 450 produces the exact same power it did in 2015 and in 2014, peaking at 50.75 horsepower at 9,200 RPM. As comparison, the all-new 2016 KTM 350 SXF pumps out 51.6 horsepower at 12,800 RPM. If the track is smooth and littered with turns, the RMZ shines, but as the bumps develop, the harshness of the chassis and the show-attacked air fork is painfully revealed. Suzuki and Kawasaki both use the show-attacked air fork on their 450s, so you think they would feel similar, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. The RMZ 450 beats you up on a rough track and transmits every imperfection to the rider. The Kawasaki tacked air fork performs much better. The tacked fork has a wide range of adjustability for different weight and abilities, and can be made to work better, just not nearly as well as the KYB SS spring fork on the Yamaha YZ450F. Fortunately, the 2016 RMZ 450 is not a bike you just jump on and feel comfortable. It takes a lot of suspension tweaking to get it working decent, and many riders never are able to come to terms with the overall harsh feel of the bike. The Suzuki RMZ 450 is the heaviest bike in the shootout. The added weight, missing top-end power from the engine, lack of comfort in the suspension, and dated look lands the Suzuki in the 7th position in the 2016 MotoUSA 450 Shootout. The 2016 Honda CRF450R is a fun bike that is incredibly easy to ride for both novices and pros, thanks to the light, nimble, and flickable feel. For 2016, it received changes that improved rear wheel traction and overall stability. The CRF450 Power is very friendly, and even though Honda is a bit down on the horsepower game, the delivery provides great forward bite in all conditions. With 3 ignition maps to easily choose from via a button on the handlebars, most riders prefer the aggressive map, which adds some hit off the bottom and through the mid. The stock map is ideal for riders who love non-intimidating power or for a hard slippery track. Honda's strong suit is a love of corners. The light feel allows it to carve any type of turn with confidence, especially ruts. Sometimes the flip side of good cornering is twitchiness at high speed, which the Honda CRF still exhibits at times, even with the 2016 changes aimed at improving overall stability. A few test riders struggle with front wheel traction and a vague feel from the front end. A lot of that can be blamed on the KYB air forks. Air forks don't typically provide the comfort and front wheel traction of a spring fork. Fast riders, especially larger ones, find more comfort in air forks compared to the average rider. We found this to be true on the Honda. Our over 185-pound riders rank the KYB fork more favorably than the lighter riders. Landing in the 6th position isn't a true representation of the Honda's performance and shouldn't deter you from considering if the Honda is the right choice for your style and needs. Based on our testing and test rider feedback, the Honda clearly outshines the Suzuki RMZ450, and not finishing far from the 4th and 5th position. The Honda was the top choice for some riders depending on what track we were testing, proving that usable power is much more important than having the most power. After riding the all-new and vastly improved 2016 KTM 350 SXF, there wasn't a doubt it had to be included in our 450 shootout. This 350 destroys any big bore 250F and can hang with the big 450s when kept up in the heart of the power and ridden aggressively. If you're a big rider always searching for more power out of a 450, the KTM 350 SXF probably isn't even on your radar. Surprisingly, the KTM 350 SXF smashes out more peak horsepower than the Suzuki RMZ450 and the Honda CRF450R. The 350's peak horsepower happens way up around the 13,000 RPM mark, not far from the incredible 13,400 RPM rev limiter, which means to make use of that power, you can't be afraid of high RPMs. It still doesn't produce as much torque, but it does weigh 10 pounds less than the RMZ and 5 pounds less than the CRF. Being the lightest bike in the shootout on the scale is nice, then you get out on the track where the KTM 350 feels much lighter than all the other 450s. That light feel helps it drop into corners effortlessly. The 350 is an incredible handling bike. It's hard to believe that a bike that corners so well can also be stable and so fun to ride. Our largest and fastest riders found the suspension slightly on the soft side, but for the average rider, the improved 4CS fork works well, and the WP suspension really shines as the track gets rough. Landing in the 5th position for the 2016 KTM 350 SXF, again, isn't a concrete statement on where it ranks among the big 450s. Our lightest pro rider chose the 350 as the overall winner of the 450 shootout. Nearly every skill level and size loves the KTM 350, and features like electric start, hydraulic clutch, adjustable reach levers, and Dunlop MX32 tires stock sweeten the deal. The Kawasaki KX450 underwent a major overhaul for 2016, getting its first head-to-toe revamp in 7 years. The all-new chassis is narrower, and the overall package is much lighter, 7.5 pounds to be exact. Past complaints of a wide and heavy feel from the KX450 now have zero validation. The KX450 finally feels slim. It doesn't feel as slim and light as the Husky or the KTM, but compared to the bulky Yamaha YZ450F, it is anorexic. In the past, Kawasaki was known for having brutal, arm-stretching power. The power has been reworked to deliver a more pleasant experience, especially for the non-pro rider. Kawasaki is by no means a slouch in the power department, it is just easier to manage. The power pulls through the RPM smoothly and is way more friendly off idle. Test riders who wanted more hit simply changed the ignition coupler to the more aggressive white map. Kawasaki finally has a handheld device that allows riders to adjust the fuel and ignition curves quickly. No more PC computer or 12-volt battery. Front wheel traction is improved with the new chassis, and the KX carves corners better than ever before. It is still a rear steering bike, but now has the ability to hold an inside line when needed. It doesn't corner as well as the KTM or the Husky, but then again, nothing does. In the stability department, Kawasaki ranks near the top. It rarely feels twitchy or steps out of line. Down the big hills at Glen Helen, it was the bike that begged to go faster into the braking bumps. After riding the Suzuki RMZ450 with the Showa Tact air fork, one might believe there was zero hope of that fork ever working decent. But it works well on the 2016 KX450F. Showa's valving updates for 2016 are a big improvement, and the recommended stock air pressure and clicker settings are an excellent starting point. The 2016 KX450F's strong engine is more rider-friendly, the bike corners better, the handling is stable, and overall the machine offers up a lot of adjustment from the suspension and the ergonomics, landing the KX450 in a respectable 4th position. The completely new 2016 Husqvarna FC 450 and the all-new 2016 KTM 450 SXF are virtually identical dirt bikes. After all, they come out of the same factory. The Husky uses a more restrictive muffler, a composite subframe, a slightly different airbox, a McGurl hydraulic clutch, different rims, and MX52 tires instead of MX32s. That pretty much sums up the main differences between the Husky and the KTM. The Husky just takes a little longer to get to its peak horsepower due to the muffler and more restrictive airbox. On the dyno, the FC450 and the 450 SXF mimic each other until the very end of the RPM range when the Husky squeaks out an extra horsepower right before the rev limiter. In the dirt and out on the track, the FC450 is very easy to ride, even though it is the most powerful engine in the 450 class. The all-new Husqvarna, like the all-new KTM, handles awesome, and it is 10 pounds lighter than last year's Husky 450. This year's WP4CS fork and shock work much better than it did in 2015, creating a plush ride that appeals to a wider range of riders. The rougher the track, the more the Husky shines compared to the other 450s. Overall, suspension is a bit soft for pro-level riders, but very few pros ever run stock suspension. Cornering on the FC450 is a highlight of the handling package, and the smooth but powerful engine helps maintain traction throughout the corner, especially on corner exit. Only weighing in 2 pounds heavier than the KTM 450, mainly due to heavier tires, the Husky feels ultra light on the track and in the air. The minimal differences between the KTM and the Husky do create a slightly different feel. It's hard to say one bike is better than the other, they're just a little different, but very much the same. With only minor, but easily changeable differences, the choice between the Husky 450 and the KTM 450 boils down to a choice between white or orange. If you're trying to buy a KTM and can't find one, the Husky is basically a muffler and set of tires from a 2016 KTM 450 SXF, landing the 2016 Husqvarna in the 3rd position. Five years ago, the thought of KTM winning a motocross shootout was a pipe dream. Fast forward to 2016, and the KTM narrowly missed the top spot in MotoUSA's shootout. In fact, if we could give the winning position to 2 bikes, it would be the KTM 450 SXF and the YZ450F. The all-new KTM 450 is one wicked motocross bike. Overall handling of the KTM 450 SXF is unmatched. The power is excellent, the bike is light, the corner is amazing, has great brakes, uses a hydraulic clutch, and of course has the praised electric start. The WP suspension is the best it's ever been, especially for the general consumer. To top it all off, the KTM 450 is the lightest 450 motocross bike in production. While the KTM 450 squeaked out a slight win over the Husky 450 among test riders to lock down 2nd place in the shootout, Husqvarna very well could have tied for the 2nd spot had we switched to the Dunlop MX32 tires and used a less restrictive KTM muffler. 1st through 3rd were very close when all test scores were tallied, and the KTM just missed the overall, scoring higher in some categories than the YZ450. The 2016 KTM 450 SXF lands in the 2nd position, and for many is a viable candidate for the 1st position, especially for the rider who's looking for the lightest 450 in production that handles awesome and has an electric start. Like chipping away at a stone sculpture, Yamaha's been tweaking and mastering the YZ450F since their bold move in 2010 to spin the top half of the engine 180 degrees and tilt the cylinder rearward. The design boosted power, response, and created a very potent YZ450F engine. Now in 2016, if you didn't have the dyno numbers to prove it, you'd swear the YZ450F makes the most horsepower out on the track. It's actually a little more mellow than the 2015 YZ450F, increasing the rideability, especially down low off idle. It's still very responsive and strong, but very easy to manage, helping to improve the chassis performance and rider confidence. To Yamaha's benefit, they have not strayed from the proven KYB SSS spring fork, and that is one of the major reasons they sit in the top spot in the 2016 MotoUSA shootout. No matter the weight or skill level, every test rider felt the Yamaha had the best suspension. Riding the Yamaha towards the end of the day after riding all the other bikes clearly demonstrates how amazing the Yamaha suspension and chassis were. The YZ450F doesn't win every category, but the overall package, highlighted by the best suspension, makes the YZ450 the bike most test riders would want to take home. The YZ450 wins the 450 shootout by virtue of its powerful and easy-to-ride engine and near-perfect suspension. The only grumble and gripe from testers is the cornering on the YZ. It lays over better and holds the line more consistently than 2015, thanks to suspension revisions, a new offset triple clamp, and engine mount changes. But it can be improved further by sliding the forks up in the triple clamps and switching to a better front tire like the MX32. The YZ suspension, handling, and awesome engine more than make up for any minor cornering issues. It wasn't an easy win for the YZ. The all-new KTM 450 SXF nearly took the top spot away. Today's motocross bikes are technical marvels. The amount of horsepower and torque produced from these small 450 engines is phenomenal. Match that power with high-tech chassis, top-of-the-line suspension, and you have 7 dirt bikes that are light years ahead of what was available only a decade ago. No two humans are alike, and not one motocross bike suits all riders. Performance is an obvious consideration when choosing a bike, but so is price, aesthetics, and bang for your buck. For more information on each bike, opinions, technical info, and specs, read the full article on MotoUSA.com.